So, Reid Moon, absolute honor to have you on the podcast. I am such a fan of your YouTube channel and all your videos on social media that really delves into the depths of rare books, rare manuscripts. For, I suppose, a bibliophile kind of nearly like myself, it's so stimulating to hear your analysis, to hear your thoughts on all these rare manuscripts. But I don't want to kind of steal your thunder. Just for the listeners that might not know you, if you just want to kind of give a quick intro of pretty much who Reid Moon is.
Sure, absolutely. Good to be here. Pleasure. So, I did not know when I was younger that I would end up doing this. Nobody told me you could be a treasure hunter of rare literary artifacts. I thought I would be a doctor or a dentist, but I went to college, changed majors multiple times,
Mhm.
ended up going back. My father had an insurance agency. But we also had a small community bookstore, a service to the local community, but it did not have enough sales to support itself. And so it was with the insurance office. And it didn't take me long to figure out. I got my insurance license, I was selling insurance, but as people would, we had a few customers a day, three, four, five, that was all. But I enjoyed talking to people about books rather than selling insurance. And I told my father, I would rather sell books than insurance. And he told me, you will never make a living selling books unless you could increase the sales by 400%. Within 2 years, I increased the sales by 400%
Whoa.
because I listened to the people who came in. They asked for books that were out of print. This is in the 1980s, pre-internet. I would track down books. But back then my budget was very small. Um, I $1, $2, $3, $4, $5. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I would sell those books for $5, $10, and I would make $2 profit, and I would go, "Yay! I'm a winner." That's how this started 38 years ago, and now it's gotten to a point where the books I acquire are the best in the world. There's nowhere up to go. It's literally the best books on the planet are what I acquire. And social media is relatively new. Started about 3 years ago on TikTok, and then it took off, and then Instagram, and then YouTube more recently. And now, within 3 years, have about 4 million followers. So,
Incredible.
and 99% of my followers are younger than me. So it's very rewarding to read the comments and see how excited people get about books. Today, the social media is so cluttered with politics and
Oh,
things that get people stressed, and people find it a relief to just come talk about books and have a passion for books and to learn the backstory, and it gets people excited about reading again. And I would say easily over 99% of the comments on all my videos are positive. People are
yeah.
just appreciative, love the story. And so
And you know
it's a
what's funny
pleasure.
there, Reid? So I actually said this to my wife the other day. I said, like when I open my phone now, my algorithm, just anything, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Instagram, or if it's YouTube, it's people dunking on each other. It's like people tearing each other down, which is sensationalism, and obviously it feeds attention, and that's what the algorithm is designed to try and crave more than anything. But I just said to her, like, oh my god, like imagine you just created a YouTube channel that's talking about positive stories, positive interaction, something that's good. Surely there's going to be a market for that because people are just going to get so fatigued by the constant, tearing down of people. But as you say that, it just clicked with me that your kind of channel is that because it is this. I think what draws me to your channel so much, and you kind of alluded to it briefly, is it's almost this treasure hunt. And I think within our DNA code, within our brain's operating system, is it was so incredibly beneficial to be curious enough to go hunt and find stuff because that was equated to better survival chances. And I think we live in a world now of abundance, but what your channel does, and this kind of treasure hunt for books, it almost activates that old circuitry that's inside our brain that is like so predisposed to really sing when you find a bit of treasure. And like I can do it vicariously through your channel, whether it's on TikTok, whether it's on YouTube. And I get the rush, maybe I get a similar probably rush to you because I'm kind of witnessing it. I'm having this like almost similar reaction to you finding this rare manuscript. I remember the video there where I think it was in London. You were going through the book fair there, and I know you had your people as well. You were going around looking for these rare books. But I kind of got that like same thrill, like when I watched that film National Treasure. Where they're like going on these treasure hunts. But like, what's the thrill you get then when you're actually throwing down the big dollar for some of these books, and there could be risk, there could be anything in it. What's your emotions, or have you got used to it? Do you still get the same thrill?
No, I still I get just as excited about finding a treasure for a few dollars as I do a very expensive one. It never gets old. And people say, "What will you do when you retire?" And I say, I never have to retire, because if I retired, I would do what I'm doing every day, which is travel the world looking for rare books and documents, and then sharing those finds with the viewers and listeners.
Yeah, and it's magic as well. Do you know what? I know you had a video, it was probably around 5 months ago, but it really clicked with me. I think you were showing, it was like 200 million plus sales, but like you had, Harry Potter, 100 million sales. It was, I think you had Tolkien, it was Lord of the Rings. I think it was 150 million sales. But
Yes.
then you brought out the big dog, and that was The Tale of Two Cities. Like, Reid, for someone that really understands like manuscripts, rare books, just books in general, like what is it? What is it? What's the difference between a book that sells 200 copies on Amazon and 200 million, like Charles Dickens' The Tale of Two Cities? Like, have you been able to like maybe disinter? Is it the writing? Is it the story? Is it the time it was wrote in? Like, is there anything that you can sing to there that would say what makes a book really successful?
Well, what I found a similarity between all the books you mentioned, the reason they've sold so many is because they have a story that resonates with humanity. There's
Okay.
something about it that is a timeless story that is just as fresh today as it was 200 years ago, 100 years ago, or whether it's in the future. But it's a story that can be retold over and over, and it never loses its luster. It's exciting, and um, th- there may be a book that has only sold 20, 30 copies that could be that, but unfortunately, it gain distribution.
Yeah.
And it's just like sometimes I will do a video that I think, okay, this one's going to blow up. It's going to be great. And it just kind of fizzles. And I go, what happened?
Yeah.
Sometimes we are at the fate of algorithms, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't get in front of us. But I think if you're consistent, it will get out there. And um, yeah, I would say
Yeah.
that's my take.
And I think that's the thing with, especially with Tolkien, like, because I remember I'd seen like a video on or a video on, it was like an analysis of like kind of Tolkien's world and stuff like that. But like the orcs were almost like kind of what you'd like imagine Nazis and stuff like that. That there is always this horde of evil that's always trying to topple good. And I think it probably is what you say. It's like the timeless stories are maybe the ones that that kind of feed or that tap into that like circuitry, ancient circuitry, but even modern circuitry now. That it's like there's always kind of good and evil, and it's that kind of them competing forces in the world. There's always a story of kind of humanity, and it's so interesting. And I think Tolkien probably is probably the biggest master at that. Like I know Lord of the Rings as well is George R. Martin is like kind of more a modern day. And he kind of tapped into that as well. But there's so many writers write in sci-fi and in that kind of similar vein, but don't hit them that same stratosphere as Tolkien uh, got to. Like, what do you think it was about him? Like, do you think it was the era as well? Was there something that maybe propelled him further than, say, maybe a lot of modern writers or even maybe past writers?
Well, if you go back to when the books came out, they really were not big sellers.
Oh, were they not?
No, they were not.
Oh
No,
my God.
no. When the first edition of The Hobbit came out in 1937, do you know how many copies were printed?
How many?
1,500 copies.
Oh man, that is like,
And then, oh wow, these sold out. Let's do another 2,000. And they just didn't sell that many. In fact, during Tolkien's life, he died in 1973. The movies don't come out till the year 2000. And it's really that it was the movies that took it to the next level. And he became a billionaire posthumously. And he made the he made the equivalent of maybe $1,000 a month off of his books. Nothing spectacular. He was not a rich man. And in fact, his book, Lord of the Rings, C.S. Lewis, his friend, who I believe was born in Ireland, C.S. Lewis, he recommended it for a Nobel Prize of Literature. And the Nobel Committee rejected it, saying we would never consider fantasy or some childish book. It was not appreciated in the day. It was
yeah.
not appreciated. And now you look back, it is in every top 10, top 5 list of most important works of the 20th century. That, but again, was not appreciated, and it was just being discovered in America like in the 1960s and 70s,
Yeah.
but still it was not on any reading list when I was in high school or college, and that is a more recent phenomenon.
Yeah, time is a funny thing. Like, because I think like one of my favorite books of all time is The Great Gatsby. Like 45,000 words, kind of pamphlet novel. But I think the story is just like because it was what I found a copy of that. Like I was dyslexic on like and left school at 15. Like I had a really horrible relationship with reading and writing because it made me feel so small and inadequate. Because like in class when I used to have to stand up and I'd stutter, so I had this like huge aversion to reading. But I remember when I was in I moved to Canada. I was living in a hostel in 2010 in Toronto. And I found I used to work night shift, which was like the most boring thing in the world. You were just like throwing drunk people out or telling them to go to bed. Like it was horrible. But I remember like I was so bored one night and there was like this reading cabinet. And I picked out like this copy of Great Gatsby. And like it literally, I just read the story really slowly and stuff like that, but it changed everything. I became like a voracious reader after it, made me want to be a writer. And I read it every year for around, let's say, 11 years after. And every time I got something different from the story as I matured. And what really kills me is Scott F. Fitzgerald, like that wasn't, he was never seen as successful. I think he died really young as well. And it's the biggest tragedy because this book is so monumental and he never got to see the success of anything really.
Yes, well, and see, that's interesting because when the book was printed in 1925, 100 years ago, they expected it to be a big seller, but it really didn't sell that many copies. And uh, within 5 years, there's the Great Depression, and the world goes into this Great Depression.
Yeah.
And but his writing style was talking about the lives of wealthy. And
Yeah.
do you know what people did not want to read? About the wealthy people when everybody was poor. And so
Yeah.
nobody would buy his works. And yes, he went into a Great Depression mentally, and was
Tragic.
there was a time where he thought he could revive his career, and he did a newspaper interview for a New York paper. And in that article, they trashed him and said he is a drunk, he's a has-been, he's irrelevant, and he wanted to end his life.
Oh, so
And
sad.
but he had a nurse that convinced him not to take his life. And then 2 months later, he wrote her a letter. I have that letter.
Stop.
Would you like me to read the letter?
Oh man, please go for it. That sounds like he's such an idol of mine.
Okay. Let's see if I can find it quickly. But it's a wonderful letter, and you can tell how brilliant his writing is just from a very short letter.
And Reed, I remember when he wrote Gatsby, I think like he did 15 drafts of it. Or so it was something outrageous, and I was like, because I like when I write now, I do a lot of drafts as well, and it's like, but he was like 15 drafts is wild, but like he was just such a talented writer. Like that story of Gatsby is just because it really gets into the core of the human ego. And I think the whole point of the book that like crystallizes it for me is where he cannot be happy unless Daisy recants her love for Tom. And it's such a critical moment of where the human ego just manifests in all its ugly self. Because I think Gatsby was such an endearing character. But like the endearment only goes so far as where that he has to make this, this request of Daisy that she has to recant the love for Tom, and it's like it's such a slight of the human personality where we make where we have to retract back the other person's life just so we can kind of feel in our superior and not inferior to Tom or whoever the Tom is in all our lives. We all have a Tom in our lives, but just what a great novel. And again, pamphlet novel, like 45,000 words. And then you look at Tolkien, it's like the reverse, but you can still get a story so profound in 45,000 words, which is amazing.
Oh, I'm disappointed that I can't find it. But let me tell you about it.
Yeah, go for it,
Um,
man.
so he wrote Pauline, and he said that I wrote you a week ago, and it seemed a silly letter.
Mm.
And he said that life hasn't made much sense over the past few months. And he said that he's been comparatively sober, but that he is afraid and unhappy. And he said those are the very worst conditions for writing. And he says, I can understand how the Europeans felt during the war when they found themselves accidentally alive.
Oh, profound.
And then he goes on and talks about how Zelda is in an asylum
Yeah,
at the
she was like,
time.
schizophrenia
Yeah,
kind of. What's it?
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
very
She's in
young.
an asylum. And then after this letter, he, within a few years, he gets a job in Hollywood. And he goes there, but the writing style for TV is different than novels, and it wasn't very successful, and it was a lot of stress. And he comes home from work one day and he dies, heart attack,
At
in like in
40
his
something.
40s,
Yeah,
40s, yeah.
yeah.
And then after this, Zelda is still in an asylum, and a crazy nurse locks the doors of it and sets the asylum on fire and burns the women. And so Zelda dies a horrible death.
Oh my God, I didn't know that part.
Yeah, yeah.
This,
So
this was, she did it on purpose, the nurse.
the nurse, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
I think there were like 12 to 14 women in this building, and she locked the door so they couldn't get out and put it on fire. Yeah, so that's a story people don't know. It's a tragic ending for,
For such a great writer and his wife, obviously, and stuff, but wow.
well, and a lot of people, we say F. Scott Fitzgerald. Most people don't know what his first name is. His first name is Francis. And
Mm.
in fact, his full name is Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald. So it was his great grandfather who wrote the Star Spangled Banner, which is a
Stop. the
Yeah.
American national anthem.
Yeah. So Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald.
Wow. So he had lineage there, and like Fitzgerald is an Irish name. He must have had some sort of roots to or lineage anyway back to Ireland, which is interesting as well. You know,
And now, just a quick question for you. What would you say 20th century, the great Irish novel?
like to be honest,
Well, I know what I would say, and I have it behind me.
oh, go for it, please do. I'm looking at all them books behind. For anyone that's just listening, read his backdrop is just this beautiful bookcase full of leather-bound
Okay.
manuscripts.
1922.
Yeah. Ah, Ulysses. Yeah.
This is the first edition, first printing,
Yeah.
published by Shakespeare and Company in Paris. This book was banned
Man,
for many
it
years.
looks pristine though.
It is. It's a stunning copy.
Oh my God, it looks like brand new. That is incredible. And the Tiffany kind of blue color on it is stunning. Oh my God, I can smell the pages through here. It just has that old texture. 1922. That's what 103 years old.
Yeah.
And such an incredible work, like. The funny thing is when Carl Ung read it, he said he thought James Joyce was suffering from psychosis. Oh,
Yeah.
look at the beauty of that. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's a
Like
beautiful
what's that
surviving
worth then?
copy.
Like what's like Reed, what's that worth? Like what or
100,000.
100,000. Oh my God.
Because almost no copies survived. Very few copies survived. Look, it's paper. It's in wrapper, what they call
Jesus.
it.
And where did you pick up that? Like, did you tell, like, how do you, okay, so here, let's
Okay.
go down the route. How do you
Okay.
hunt something like that down?
I got it at auction, but it was one of what I call a sleeper auction where nobody's paying attention, and I picked it up for about 15,000.
Whoa. And did people
So
know the value of it? Like how you were just able to get in and like know the
yeah,
worth?
you can go online and look, and you'll see copies listed for over 100,000.
Yeah.
But when you can pick up a copy for a fraction, it's like it's a no-brainer.
Wow. Like that must be some rush though. Like,
Yeah,
getting that arbitrage where like people don't understand what it's worth. Can I actually give you a story here?
please.
So I'm gonna pull up a book here as well. So I don't know if you know like Lawrence Durrell. I think he's probably the best author that has ever lived. He was a Brit. He was British. But man, listen to this, right? So this is probably going back to around 2015, right? So I got really into reading and writing and stuff like that. And in Ireland, where I'm from, me and my dad on Saturday morning, we used to go to the dump site to, bring our recycling and bring our, our rubbish and stuff like that. That's what you kind of did. You could get your bins collected, but this is the way we used to do it. But in the dump site, anyway, they had this like, what you can imagine as a shipping container, right? And it used to be filled with books people were throwing out, magazines, books, something like that, right? I always used to go in, I'd scour, I'd see what I get. Sometimes it's like school books and something like colouring books, like it's stuff that I'm not interested in. One day, man, I went in, right? And I found this in here, right? And I just thought, oh, yeah, what is this? Man, and this is what like literally threw me on to Lawrence Durrell, but it has like it has his signature is on the front of the cover, right? And I don't know if you know about this book, you probably do, but and it's signed in the book as well. So it's signed in the book and it has the receipt as well as I'm showing you here. Sorry, listeners, you can't see. But man, it was the first time that book was. It was banned when he wrote it in 1939, and it was only the first time in 1971 when it was allowed to be published in the UK that someone had got a copy and threw it out, and I found it, and the rush I got was like nothing I've ever felt. Like honestly, like this piece of history and it's turned me on. Like anything I collect now is Lawrence Durrell. I've like so many of his first editions. They're not like worth a huge amount of money. You're talking maybe a 5, 6, 700 signed copy, but like that rush. Like, what was your first? Like, so that's my initiation story, so to speak. Have you an initiation story where you got like this explosion of adrenaline?
Um, I have about 10,000 of those stories
Oh man, you're so lucky. Honestly, you're a blessed man.
because every time I go hunting, it's successful.
Yeah,
Um, every time I go, well, most people, and I would say 99% of people who sell books, they have their bookshop and they wait for the books to come to them, for people to come in. Um, I live in the state of Utah, which
yeah,
really was only settled 150 years ago. And so everything's new. Everything has to be brought in. So there's
yeah,
nothing organically walking through the front door here. So I need to go find it. You want to go closer to where a book was first printed, which for me, most books I'm looking for is the UK.
yeah,
And so, whether it's Shakespeare, Tolkien, you name it, Jane Austen, Dickens, it's all there. So, closer to the source, lower the price. I have never been on a trip where I haven't found one book that pays for the airfare and everything.
wow.
And 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 I go to book fairs and everything. And in fact, I find not just one, but two, three, four, 5, 10, 20, books that take care of it. And so, um, how can you not keep doing that?
Yeah,
Because it's so much fun. Um, I did a video when my last trip to the UK just
yeah.
2 months ago, where we were
That vibe.
visiting a little town and went up to the bookshop and it said, cash only. And between us, we had 100 quid. And so we did a video. What can we find? And we walked out of there with like 20 books, including a large Bible from the 1700s
Yeah.
that by itself was worth hundreds of dollars. And we found music, Beethoven and Mozart from the 1800s. Those were worth hundreds of dollars. We ended up walking out with $4,000 worth of books that we picked up for 100 quid.
I think that's like that knowledge is like a superpower because like you're able to spot it. It's like that sharpness to spot something that's like kind of has value or that has worth. Uh, and like this is maybe back to my question, right? What I'm going to ask is like so the Ulysses there, the James Joyce that you just showed, 100 or at auction, it's obviously worth 100,000. You got it better. Have you had a moment where it's not at an auction, but you find something extremely rare? If it's maybe a thrift store, if it's like a flea market, something that's really rare, but it's not in the a rare setting. It's not at an auction. It's not Sotheby's. It's not
Oh,
on
yeah,
book
yes,
sale.
yes. Every bookstore I go into, I almost feel bad because I plunder that bookstore.
And are they
Uh,
not doing the research then? What happens, Reid?
no, I've talked to them because I walk in and I ask them, I said, why are you selling these for so low? And they say, this is what they tell me. They say, the people who pay the big bucks
Yeah.
don't walk into my bookstore.
Ah, okay. So
And
it's
they said, I'm making money. I'm selling it to you for $5 or $10. I paid $1. So I'm happy I'm making money. You may be able to sell it for more. In fact, I started a video, but then I stopped because I thought I'm going to create too many competitors for myself. Uh,
yeah.
but I walked into a local bookstore, and I even showed. I had a $20 bill. I said, I'm going to walk into this bookstore and I'm going to see what I can do. I want to turn this $20 into $1,000. I'm going to see how long it takes. I walked in, I bought 3 books. Each were first editions, each was worth about $200. I
Whoa.
sold those for 500, bought one more book for 500, sold it for 1,000. So with so I turned $20 into 1,000
And
just by
Reid,
walking into a bookstore.
Right. So for the listeners that maybe don't understand, like what makes a book rare then? Let's specify that. Like what gives it that kind of prestige?
Okay. Typically, it's not necessarily age,
Okay.
but and really, some of the most important books are from the past century. They're called modern first. So pretty much from 1900 forward, books that have a dust wrapper or a dust jacket, first edition, a literary work, if you can find that, even if it's only 10, 20, 30 years old, because a lot of times an author becomes famous, but their first printings were very small. And like I'm a fan of a South American author, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. He won
Yeah.
a Nobel Prize for Literature for 100 Years of Solitude.
Yeah.
And I love his works. Well, his first printings a lot of times were 1,000 books. And still a lot of people don't know the name. And so I every bookshop I walk into, I look for Gabriel Garcia Marquez because invariably it's priced at $10 or $5 and it just but they're always worth several $100s. And so um it's just knowing that. But nowadays there are online databases that give you price ranges that make it easy.
Yeah.
But it's to the point where I don't need that anymore. I can
Yeah.
literally just walk in, and what you're looking for on a modern first, the dust jacket or dust wrapper is typically 80% of the value.
Oh, is it really?
Yes, and for a
Oh,
book that is a favorite of yours, for The Great Gatsby,
yeah.
the dust wrapper is 95% of the value.
Oh man.
So you can pick up a first edition 1925 Great Gatsby without the dust wrapper for $3,000 to $5,000. With the dust wrapper, it's over 100,000. It has one of the most
Really?
iconic dust wrappers. See, that just goes to show everybody took them off, threw them away. So that little wrapper is in Great Gatsby, that case.
Yeah.
It's the same with The Hobbit. There were only 1,500 copies printed. Maybe 500 of those have survived. Of those 500, no more than 50 have the dust wrapper. That book is
That's
worth
rare.
with that book with a dust wrapper is worth 150 to $200,000. Without the dust wrapper, it's worth about 20.
Oh
So
my god.
again, a piece of paper that wraps a book is like 75 to 90% of the value. So that's the number one thing you look for when you're looking for a book. Does it has the original wrapper, dust wrapper? Is it in good condition? Is it clipped? Is it
Yeah.
And then if it's a book you recognize that's been made into a movie, you go, okay, there's a very good chance that it will have a value of several $100s, even if that's just a general rule. And many times you will see those books for $10. And so when you're looking, look to see if it has the original wrapper. Then also look on the title page or behind to see which printing it is.
Yeah.
Um, if it's hopefully it has like a stated first edition. Sometimes it's very tricky on books to tell what a first edition is. There's typically a number line of 10 numbers, and the lowest number is the printing typically. So if you can see like 1 through 10, you know that's going to be a first edition. But like if you're looking at Harry Potter books, a lot of times you'll see a number line 69 to 78. That's going to be the 69th printing. So it's
Yeah.
not going to have much value. But that's what you want to look for. And I have so many people who follow me that tell me they've started doing this. And um, I had one young man, he was in his third year of university. He dropped out to sell books full time because part time he was making more selling books than he would make if he continued
Wow.
his career. And for him, that was a dream.
Yeah.
And
Because it's treasure hunting, kind of like it
It,
is
it's
that.
never dull. It's never
Yeah.
dull. It's like most people don't realize I have 8 children, 2 different marriages, but I have 8 children. And rather than get a job at McDonald's making whatever, $15 an hour. I say, just spend your weekends, go book hunting, find one book that you can make $200 on in
Yeah.
3 hours. Then you're making $50 to $100 an hour treasure hunting.
The arbitrage. That's the whole thing, like, finding that gap. Uh, and Reid, because I know, like, one of the things there as well is probably providence. Like, because I know you have a King James Bible that was owned by King James. Like,
Yes.
but obviously that's never going to be apparent, maybe, who owned the book. But, like, how did you come into possession of that? Like, that is, I don't think, like, would you ever even sell that? That's probably such a piece that it's just like the
No,
King Grail.
it's one that I've had now for about 12 years, I believe, and I actually got it at auction in London.
London
And
again.
do you know that at the British Library they do not have a copy of a King James version of the Bible or the authorized version that belonged to him? They have an online database. They have other versions that belong to him, but not this one. And at the auction, the way the book was described was 1612 Holy Bible bound for James the First. But what version of the Bible was that? King James. Who is James the First? The King James. KJ, King James, King James.
Wow, it's such a cool piece to have.
Oh, it's one of the it's one of the favorite pieces we show. We have kind of a people can't believe it. Uh, I mean, it's impressive to see a first edition King James Bible, which we have, 1611, 414 years old. But people are more blown away seeing a copy that belonged to the man himself.
The man himself, that's the thing.
Well, it's just like you mentioned, A Tale of Two Cities. The copy I had was Dickens' own copy of
That's
A Tale of
mad.
Two Cities.
Yeah. And like that was like that has to be like that's such a special piece. And for especially for a book that sold 200 million. I didn't know that until I'd seen like I'd heard the story. I didn't know it was that successful, The Tale of Two Cities. Like, and I know the opening line, or the opening sequence in it, it's like it's kind of reverse and reverse and reverse. It's really unique, but like
Well,
that's such a rare piece.
and most people they know the opening line is the beginning of the opening line, but they never read the full because the opening paragraph is one sentence.
Yeah.
It's just lots of commas, but it was the best of times, it was the worst of time.
Worst of times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it starts, but it has another 100 letters, 100 words after that
Yeah.
for the opening.
And just speaking of openings, because I know you said about the Thousand Years of Solitude, I think that book has, if it's the one I'm remembering correctly, Annie, it has probably the best starting hook I've ever heard in a book, and I think it goes something like, and maybe I'm misremembering, but 20 years from now, as I face the firing squad, is that the one I'm thinking of, or is it? Yeah,
Yes.
like no, it's the hook of that book is the most perfect opening I've ever read in a book because it's instantly, he's facing the firing squad. I think it's 20 years later or something like that. You're immediately drawn in that a tragedy is going to happen or something's going to happen.
Well, and the rest of that opening line is, as I stood before the firing squad, I remembered that day in the past when my father took me to discover ice.
That's it. That's it. I was misremembered. You have a really good memory. If you can get that bang on the nail there, and that is
Well,
it. But it's
I
incredible.
love all of his opening lines
Yeah.
because he has that special gift. He has he has a book called Arindara. It's about a young woman who was living with her grandmother, and her grandmother was a very mean person and
Mm,
very large, and Arindara had to give her a bath. That's just the background, but the
yeah.
opening lines of that. As Arindara was bathing her grandmother, the winds of misfortune began to blow, and that literally was a wind that blew a candle over that set the drapes on fire that burned down the house.
Oh,
And the grandmother blamed Arindara and then said, "You're going to pay me back for this." And this grandmother turned her granddaughter into prostitution for the next decade to make her pay her
oh,
back. That's the arc of
Grim.
that story.
Yeah. Wow. That is that's grim. But yeah, he was the master at like that kind of hook. Well, come here. Actually, that nearly brings me on to another thought stream here, and it's like I think that Black Book. Like I think Gatsby's probably my favorite book, but I think from like Wordsmith, like that book, it just like Lawrence Durrell, the Black Book. Even though it's not plot driven. It's just poetic prose, very purple, very psychedelic almost. It's beautiful, but like the story of Gatsby is number one to me. I think that story. But what is maybe the ultimate book for you? Like obviously you've come across your books is your whole life. What is the one book maybe that you take to the desert island?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one.
Um, I did a recent video, my 10 favorite books, and I mean, Tolkien is a part of that. Um, I do read some modern. Uh, I I used to. One reason I'm fond of, let's say, Gabriel Garcia Marquez is because I speak Spanish and Portuguese, and I lived in South America for a few years. And in fact, my first wife was from South America, and so I'm very partial to a lot of the authors in Latin America, um, including Isabel Allende, who wrote House of the Spirits, that's been made into a movie. But I, it's hard to beat Tolkien for me, just the timeless nature of his stories, because you can read it and get another level of interpretation from from him. Now, he was a religious man, but he didn't want his book to be religious, but he did want it to be good versus evil. And knowing that, one of my absolute treasures in my collection is I own Tolkien's Bible,
Oh wow.
annotated, annotated.
Wow.
He had a gift of languages, and he makes annotations in this New Testament correcting the Greek.
That is wild. To have
Yeah, yeah.
that like in your possession is crazy.
Yeah, my favorite books are books that belong to famous historical figures. In fact, just on my desk, and I know your listeners can't see, but I have two books that belong to two famous historical figures, and everybody knows these names. One is here is a book that belonged to Napoleon
Bonaparte, like, yeah.
Bonaparte, yes, and
Wow.
this one, Marie Antoinette.
Oh, that's a little book. Look at it. Oh my God.
Yeah, these were these were prayer books. They were Catholic, and so
Yeah.
this is what you would take to read mass with. But to have
Wow.
their own books that they used in church services is very,
Well, the providence is incredible.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it's are they small? Am I just seeing on that? They are
yeah,
small,
yeah.
small
Small. They're
little
about
prayer
four
book.
inches tall. About
Yeah.
4 inches tall. Now I opened it up. You can read it, but it's small. It's like
Yeah.
newspaper print.
Yeah.
But they're portable. They were meant to be carried with you,
Harried. Yeah.
to take to church services with you. Um, I did every time I find a spectacular book, I say, what can I do for an encore? And
Yeah.
then I find something and I go, just when you think you can't find anything better.
Yeah.
I haven't done a video in detail on this book yet, but a lot of people who follow me know that I like the spooky books
Mm.
or the books that go back to witchcraft and occult
Yeah.
philosophy and that type of thing. If we go back to 400 years to the 1600s, one of the most influential books is called The Lesser Key of Solomon. It purports to have all of these spells and everything that go back to the time of Solomon mentioned in the Bible. And there were six handwritten copies made because this at this time, based on the book Malleus Maleficarum or Hammer of the Witches, you could be put to death if you had
Oh,
these
yeah.
books. I mean, and James the First, he was notorious. He before he does the King James Bible, he writes a book on demonology and witchcraft in 1597 because he felt that witches were trying to kill him and his wife. And so under Elizabeth the First, she was somewhat lenient for witchcraft, 1 year in prison, but under James the First, death. And but there were 6 handwritten copies. 5 are in the British Library. There's one that was out there that last sold at auction in 1886, I believe. It just surfaced and I acquired it. So
Ah,
I have
stop.
the only one in private hands of one of the most famous books. And
Give us a
again, you'll
look.
have to,
What does it look
I
like?
have it right here in front of me. This is what you would expect a book or a grimoire, a book of spells to look like.
A
Doesn't matter
grimoire. Is
where
that the
I
name
open
of it?
it. Doesn't matter where I open it.
And is this handwritten? Yeah. Or,
Handwritten.
oh my God, look at it. And does that give you any spooky? Like, I think I'd be afraid to own something like that. Like,
Oh
kind of,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
do you know,
It's
because I'm superstitious and
I
stuff.
have
Stuff
I
like
have some
that freaks
crazy
me out.
I have some crazy stuff that happens in the bookstore because I have some spooky
Man,
books.
I can imagine.
Yeah, you do not want to be here at midnight with the lights out.
Oh, because I like, and the thing is, I was just chatting to a friend about this earlier on today. That like, there's an energy lives, I think, and not to get into the supernatural or spiritual or anything like that. But we were talking about homes, and I think there was 2 homes like close by to where me and my wife live that were built on fairy forts. I don't know if you know what a fairy fort is, but in Ireland it's a very sacred site that you know not to build on. And the conversation went as such that all the people that had owned them buildings and that lived in them houses all got like cancer or died or got sick, and like no one, like they're abandoned now, the houses, even though they're kind of like, prime houses, no one lives in them. And like, I don't know whether it's, but there's an energy. And like, just when you're saying that, like, what maybe does go on in the, like, have you seen that? Or is there a kind of weird vibe around? You have stuff there that has legacy and stuff, you know?
Every book has, I believe, it brings something with it, kind of a spirit. And some books do have a very spooky vibe, but others are very somber because the person who owned them or whatever, um, you know their backstory, and you go, wow. Um, and some people think that those books should be destroyed, but I tell the history of the world through books, good, bad, and ugly. And I do a lot of presentations for like school groups. And so that's one reason I have these books. I don't celebrate the dark, but it's part of our history.
A hundred
It's part
percent.
of our history. And many people for some of these books were put to death because of their beliefs, and that can go for religious text also. And I do a lot of religious text because some of the most printed book in the history of the world is the Bible.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of stories with those, and so I love collecting those stories, and I love collecting those books that belong to famous historical figures. Those are really the treasures that I have here.
And read, like, because you're in like the heart of Mormon country as well, like, and I know you have a lot of videos, like, but some of the Mormon like works are really sought after as well, are they? Like, cause like in Ireland, I wouldn't know as much about the Mormon culture, but I know it's like the heartland of it is in Utah and stuff. And I see some of
Yes,
your videos, but like they have a lot of value
like
as well. Some of them early work.
yes. For example, a first edition copy of the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Um, the book came out in 1830, so 195 years ago. There were about
Oh.
5,000 copies printed, and maybe 500 copies have survived. And in 20 years, I have tracked down 332 of the 500.
Man, that is incredible. And
Now,
yeah, like,
I have to turn around and sell them, but I
yeah.
have kept 3 of the most important.
Okay. Why?
I
What
kept
made them important?
because they were the ones most associated with the founder
Yeah.
of the Mormon faith, a man named Joseph Smith. I have his
Yeah.
copy.
Oh, geez, what's that worth? Like, that's
Millions.
millions, yeah.
I've turned down $7.5 million for that copy.
Oh, I'd be banking. Seven and a
I
half
know.
million.
I tell people that's my retirement fund, but then again, I'm never going to retire
Yeah.
because
But you
there's a
love what
custom
you do.
there's a customer for that I have a waiting list of people waiting for that.
But can we actually read, because that's just after spark. Like, who is your customer? Like, who is who? Like, because
There,
number one, 7.5 million is a lot of money. But who is it? Is it like, is it other collectors, or is it people that has like some maybe profound connection with the content of the book or the author? Or,
the members of the Mormon faith
yeah,
who happen, but there's an inordinate amount of members of the Mormon faith or members of what is called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints,
yeah,
who are very wealthy,
okay,
uh, and they want to own a piece of history.
yeah, and that's the
Now,
biggest in their world.
well, and a first edition copy of the Book of Mormon, just a plain copy. For many years, it was there are very few books that are worth $100,000. Well, for since the year 2007, it's been selling for over 100,000. Now it's up to 300,000 for a plain copy.
It's a good investment.
300,000. And I sold a copy yesterday for 300,000.
Man. But like, it's such deserved success. You got in like, and this is what I love about your story, Reid. Right? You get in there, you're doing insurance, you're making your couple of quid, a couple of dollars off, a few books, sourcing them pre-internet days, and you've grown it into that empire, man. Like, you deserve that success. Like, it's not like, it was all handed to you. Here, this is the absolute blueprint. This is the template. All you have to do is show up, man. You went and worked your butt off
Yeah,
and learned it all.
it took working 18-hour days. In
Yeah,
those early days, um, I I remember I gave up extracurricular activities and everything just to focus on selling books. And I had at the time 4 children, and so I'm working. I loved it, but it's if I hired somebody else to do the work, that's less money, and so I did everything myself for decades.
yeah,
I have a lot of people see the success now and say, "Oh, you have it easy. You have all these books." Are ignoring the 38 years before.
that's the thing. That's the thing. And the thing is, because like you started a lot of the social media in 2022, people are like, oh, how did he get there? But yeah, they didn't see the tracking back to the 80s when you were probably going around flea markets, doing all that pre-internet days. But man, like, I think it's kind of like people that have your knowledge, like, and that's why it's so important you come on podcasts, because we just want to download your brain, because you have like, I don't know how many people, authors have thrown at you, whether it's F. Scott Fitzgerald, all these people. You have the knowledge there to be able to say more backstory on them. Like, that's so rare, and it's so valued. Like, I could probably throw out another author and you'd be able to give a bit of backstory, you'd be able to give something. It's almost like a living Wikipedia in front of me, and it's like, it's incredible because it's really rich information.
Well, let's do another Irish author. Tell me another Irish author.
Well, no, Bram Stoker, man. That was one of my
Okay.
first videos I seen of you, and I was so like in awed by
Well,
that episode, or that thing of Dracula, because one was going to be $10,000. But I think it was the yellow version or a more first edition.
yes,
No, sorry, the signed edition was $100,000,
that's
and I
right.
was instantly hooked on your videos then. But
Well,
yeah,
and there's a mystery. Many of your listeners have a copy of Bram Stoker's Dracula. If
mhm.
they open it up and look to see who it's dedicated to, nobody knows who that person is.
Okay,
It is, if you open it up, and I could walk up, I'm going to grab a copy just
go
to
for it,
show.
man. Yeah,
Here is a first edition with the classic yellow cover with
Yeah.
red letters, Dracula, Bram Stoker. 1897 first edition. 1897 first edition. But if we go to the dedication page, it says, "To my dear friend, Hummybag."
Hummy bag.
Hummybag.
What's a hummy bag?
Exactly. But nobody in 128 years, nobody's asking who is or what is Hummybag.
Yeah.
First of all, that's not English.
Yeah. It sounds. Yeah.
It's a Gaelic tongue.
Ah, I still don't
It's
get it.
actually Manx
Oh, Manx,
and
Isle of Man.
monks. Yeah, Isle
Yeah.
of Man. Hommy is Tommy and Beg is little. It's dedicated to little Tommy, which was an inside joke with Bram Stoker and his friend Little Tommy, because this person, Little Tommy, had told Bram Stoker, "I hate it when I go visit my grandmother and she calls me Hummybag, Hummybag. I hate it."
Ah.
So it was an inside
Oh,
joke.
jeez.
And
There's a bit of history.
but here's the rest of the story.
Go for it.
Bram Stoker's friend was an author also, and his name was Sir Thomas Hall Caine, and he hated Thomas and Tommy, and so this author went by the name Hall Caine. He was the most celebrated author of the 1890s. He's like the only author to sell 1 million books in in the UK.
1 million back
A
then.
million back
Oh
then.
my God, what was he
The
writing
irony,
about?
nobody knows this person today, but at the time Bram Stoker wrote Dracula, he's the most celebrated author of the day. And this is a book he did called The Monksman or The Manxman.
Yeah, which is
And
the
it
Isle of Man, the Manx.
and but what's interesting about this, if you remember the Alfred Hitchcock, the director, movie
Yeah,
director, his last movie was The Manxman, um, or his silent movie before he went to
yeah,
speaking movies. So this is all kinds of background tied to Bram Stoker Dracula.
and that's who Hummy Bag is.
Hommybag is Hall Caine, and I'm going to
Let me
open this
see
book and
here.
show you. This book is gifted to Bram Stoker from your dear friend Hall Caine, or who 2 years before Bram Stoker. And then Bram
Man,
Stoker returns the favor and dedicates, and he says, one day people may find out who this is, and then they'll know the rest of the story. Now, 128 years later, your listeners know the rest of the story. A forgotten author is the Hommybag mentioned in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
jeez, there's so much providence there. It's incredible. Like, and to have
People,
all them, like, that's owned by authors. Like, it's not just a first edition, but like, even the Manx
not
man
just
there.
a first
Like,
edition, but Bram Stoker's own copy.
but where did you
Gifted.
get that? Like, how were you able to track that down? Like, that's wild.
Yeah, in the UK. I mean,
UK as
that's where it
well.
ended up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm so envious of your life. You seem like, and like I know by chatting to you as well. Chatting with a lot of people on here every week, man. You seem like a very grateful, happy, content person. You're doing what you love, and it's magical. Like I can only imagine because I know the rush I get when I find when I get a new Lawrence Durrell book, first edition, because that's where I'm gone. Like maybe I'll expand out and do all that, as money sees fit. But you kind of start off somewhere. But the rush you must get still, and I can still hear the passion in your voice, man. You are living the dream, I think,
Living the dream, for sure.
genuinely. Look, before we finish up, like what is the most expensive book you own? Because I suppose that's going to be a question on everyone's lips. Seems to be the guy with every book. What is the holy grail? What's the most expensive?
Well, we actually touched upon it. I mean, there are very few books worth millions of dollars, and so it is that copy of the Book of Mormon is
Is
that
it?
belong. Oh yes, there's nothing close to that.
Wow. And will you ever sell it,
Yes.
do you think?
No,
No.
no,
Yeah.
no. I just enjoy having it here.
Yeah. Well, man, keep at it. Like, I love your content. I'm going to link all your or your YouTube, TikTok, and all that below.
Appreciate it.
Like, I think, listeners, this guy's content is some of the best. And again, as we touched upon at the start, it's not dunking on people, it's not political, it's not fatiguing you and draining you. It's really good content that you just actually kind of feel happy and you feel like excited coming off watching, which is rare these days. So, Reid Moon, you have been an absolute pleasure, man, on the show. Thanks so much for giving up your time. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Good chatting with you.
Thanks a million.